And I'm going to ask each gentleman here to kind of give a brief overview as to their company and where they're at and kind of the dog they have in this fight of transformation. And we'll start with Greg.
Great, well thank you, John. I'm really excited to be here. ItsOn has been working on digital transformation before it was called digital transformation. And we've been in development for about 7 years, in commercial production with operators now for about 3 years. And what ItsOn creates and delivers to operators is a cloud-based digital transformation platform that essentially enhances the OSS, BSS elements in the way they need to be enhanced to provide a digital experience for the user, to provide service agility for the operator. And then we couple that with on-device software applications that allow the operator to engage in a highly segmented, highly specific way for each user and present the right incentives, the right offers to each of their users to get the user to progress through the digital journey. So that's kind of a mouthful, but at the end of the day, it's a cloud that helps with charging, in some cases billing, in some cases we use a CARES billing system, in some cases we use our own. So charging, billing, rating, policy, and then coupled into a user experience application that allows you to express to the user all these new great service plans in a very, very simple, user-friendly way that's incentivized so that you can migrate the user up the value chain from initial out of box, we call it, all the way through to a recurring user who's loyal and sticks with the program. As I mentioned, I won't take too much more time to just introduce, but we're pretty far along. We've got 5 customers, so Telefonica, STC in the Middle East, a really brilliant service called Jowie that they have, which is leading the way in the Middle East for digital transformation. MTN in South Africa, we've announced. Digicel in the Caribbean. And here at home, we have Sprint and Virgin. So 5 commercial customers, pretty far along. And what I'll probably talk a lot about today is just user experience enhancement, because that's the phase we're at. We have all the plumbing, we have all the capabilities, all the features, and now we're making the carrier friendly to the user, and there's a lot of really exciting stuff. Gamification of the app, and it all comes down to incentives where the user feels like if they use that operator, it's not just about the connection, but it's some kind of incentive that they love based on who they are. And so we're doing a lot of work around the world to decide what that is and how it relates to the app and the website.
So it's interesting. I mean, most of us think about digital transformation as being more infrastructure and backing kinds of things, but now we're talking all the way down to the user. And Jean-Marc, you were describing some things that you guys are doing with your customers to help carry that not only from the B2B side, but all the way to the C as well, with some of the customer experience things you're doing. What?
Yeah, thanks, John. So the, of course, as a telco, you can imagine that we're, I like to call telcos digital supermarkets these days, because they tend to be at the center of providing the goodness of the digital era to their customers. And we deal with all aspects, I would say, of digital. Probably first, the consumer side of things. Of course, we're very involved in making our customers' digital lives simpler and easier. And that, of course, starts with the mobile service. We're a reasonably large UK-based telecommunications companies, for those of us who don't know us, fixed and mobile, recently mobile, because we just acquired EE Everything Everywhere in the UK. So clearly for us, using your smartphones and using your all the benefits of the smartphones as a sort of life concierge is the sort of thing that we try and focus on for our customers on the consumer side. On the enterprise side, there's a lot of focus on digital transformation, which means a number of things, but it also means mobile centricity for enterprise that have traditionally focused on the migration from brick and mortar to online. I think this is way behind us now. I think the real new migration is from online to mobile, and mobile centricity for employees and for customers, for their customers. So that's the B2B2C angle. But also we tend to, what we understand when we talk about digital is just more than just the mobile transformation side of things. It's also analytics transformation, so using the power of all analytics, big data, and I include IoT actually in this, because IoT for me is very much an analytics play with sensors that go much deeper than what we used to call the real-time enterprise a few years back, if you guys recall. And beyond that, we also deal with a lot of CRM questions for our customers. How do they reach their own customers? How do they make that more inclusive, more immersive? And here I'm talking specifically about, of course, using social, of course, using texting and messaging with their customers, but also using video, and in particular personalized video. That's a very interesting new angle. And progressively, we're seeing more and more interested in using VR and AR in the CRM cycle with their end customers. So all of these are good aspects that the consumer and the enterprise market. Of course, we serve the government market, and I don't need to tell you how important digital is for eGov, but also for everything to do with smart cities and making everything work faster and better in cities, whether we're talking about lighting, garbage collection, or whether we're talking about giving access to the city resource to third parties with open data initiatives. So these are the, I would say, three angles that we cover: the consumer side, the enterprise side, and then the gov/cities side.
So if you think about digital transformation, I mean, there's huge potential. We're hearing from both companies how you guys are actually transforming the world for your clients and their clients, all the way down to the individual user with a handset in their hand going, oh, hey, that is what I was looking for. Let me sign up for more. And part of the rationale in the sales process in all these cases is actually reduction in CapEx, shift things to OpEx, things of that sort. So there's all these kind of cost-saving stories, but there's also other benefits as well we've talked along the way. But in our call prepping for this, we also talked about some of the organizational challenges that take place. Kind of the question I guess that came up was, what were the bad surprises? And there's organizational changes. So it becomes where the technology is ready, the business models are ready, we're going to save you time, we're going to save you money, and then the company goes, oh, but that means we have to change our business. And in what ways have you guys found that the companies have had to shift their organization structure, things of that sort, to deal with the benefits that you bring to their companies?
Right. So there was a lot of questions in there. So
sorry. Too much coffee this morning.
For us, no, it's great. They're all the perfect questions. It's just a lot of them. So digital transformation for us means a few things. So first, it means providing service agility in the core of the network so that operators can offer services that are more interesting than their competitors, that are personalized to the user. So you have to have a lot more capability to offer individual services, and that include incentives. At the end of the day, users respond in the application world that we live in today to some form of incentive. It's not just the connection, it's something else. For example, you don't just get free Spotify connection, but you can also sign up through the app to Spotify all in one click because we already have your information. So it's core services, and then it's how do you expose that to the user? And everybody thinks app, website. But what we've learned, you asked what are some of the mistakes, what we've learned is it's not just having a great app with a good UI, a good website with a good UI, but it's an entire, that for sure, those things for sure, app, yes, user experience, yes, but it's an end-to-end journey, which is quite ephemeral sometimes and is hard to figure out. And you really have to do a lot of user testing to find out the things that might confuse a user in a particular market that didn't confuse a user in another market. And this goes all the way from the basic flows, what we call out of box, all the way through to a loyal user. And every possible pathway that user takes in that journey has to be thought through, properly developed in the product, and then customized for that particular operator in that particular market. And it's amazing the kind of things that can derail a user's understanding. So you really have to make it all digital. So, we're trying not to have customer care calls. We're de-emphasizing physical channel brick and mortar. So it's website plus app plus text messaging to get to the user and get them to install the app, and then taking them from that very first opening of the app all the way through. So it's very clear what you want them to do. It's clear what their incentive is to do that. Like, for example, buy a service plan. For example, buy up. For example, in a prepaid market, make that service plan recurring. For example, put your debit card in or your credit card in now, and all of those things are incentivized. And so it's quite complex. So what does it mean for the operators? The operators, they have to really transform their business. They have to think more like a modern mobile app provider. These are a lot of the same things a modern mobile app provider goes through, but it's harder. because, if you're giving free voice with WhatsApp or free text, it's a super simple value proposition. It's not very complicated. If you're an operator trying to make your service, your connection service friendly, that's almost an oxymoron to people. So how do you do that? So you have to think in the modern app, the digital experience world, and that often means setting up a sub-brand that then informs your main brand. And in some cases now we're seeing operators are willing to sign deals where we do a launch and then the entire brand transfers over. If you're going to transfer your entire brand over, and this lessons learned, you need to give a path for users who are not yet ready to enter the digital experience to stay on the old experience. You'll eventually get them, but there has to be a seamless platform that says, hey, I've got this great incentive, it's super, it's wonderful, click here, get a t-shirt, click here and get free Spotify for a year, whatever the incentive is to do the next thing. But if you don't like it, fine, we'll leave you right where you are. And we have some great stuff you can get through your SMS messaging. So I'll stop there. There's so many things.
So yeah, so it's almost like, you have to maintain some analog stagnation in the midst of the digital transformation.
Yeah, and you'll get those guys originally, but if you force them, they'll get uncomfortable. So you get the app savvy users, the younger people, the educated people first, and then slowly but surely move the other folks up. They try it, they like it, they keep going.
But I like my flip phone just fine, so,
I like my flip phone so far.
Okay.
Yeah, I very much resonates with me and with us. I think what we find in general when we help our customers through their digital transformation, as well as help ourselves through our own, is there's the first question that comes up for, I would say, legacy companies that have been around for a long time, is they have a lot of legacy apps, IT estate. And the first question for them is, should the digital tool set that they now want to use, should that be an overlay? Should they just scratch, replace everything they have and put a new stack in place? Should they be running two stacks in parallel? I mean, that's kind of the first kind of strategic IT question that the people ask themselves. And there's not really a right or wrong answer to this. I mean, it really depends. I mean, again, the question of what path do you offer for your customers to migrate gently over to the digital world when they're not completely ready, means that you probably cannot scratch everything you had before and replace it. I mean, that's all right for, likes of Airbnb and people like that. Start afresh in the new digital world, but probably not for people like us. So, what Greg mentioned about the focus on the CX experiences. Once you've made your decision about how many stacks and how do you run them in parallel and how do you avoid accumulating costs, then you've got to really focus on let's not try and reproduce a traditional process or user experience in the digital world, because that's the biggest mistake that people normally make. Let's just adapt what we used to know and love and run before and just make it digital. In reality, you really have to think fresh on it. You really have to start through what is going to be that customer journey. How am I going to minimize the friction? What we like in general is to go through this with our customers in iterative process, but what we also like is the digital processes that have escape routes to non-digital means. And what I might mean by that, for instance, if a customer is through a repair cycle, so an application that helps them find issues to the problems that they might have, if we see that they're not making it through the normal way or that they're not getting the response, we like to be able to branch out to traditional brick and mortar ways of helping them, e.g. call center agents and things like that. And the important thing at that point is to think omni-channel, not multi-channel, to think that you don't want to ask the person to repeat the same thing about typically authentication for the nth time. You want to pick up the dialogue that was a digital dialogue right in the middle of it, at the point where you intercept it with a real live agent. And that is not as simple as it seems, actually, to be able to do that. You have to have really, really good systems to be able to preserve the context of that communication, of that dialogue with the customer.
That's fantastic. So, okay, we have analog stagnation, digital transformation, and it's transformation, not migration we're talking about. Mm-hmm. This is fantastic. We've got a few minutes for some questions from the audience.
Yeah, if I can just add.
Okay. We all prepare questions, and Greg's going to share a little bit more.
One quick thing. I can't agree more with what Jean-Marc said. And, real world experience. So we had a case where an operator, we did the Net Promoter Score, and they got a Net Promoter Score in the 15 to 20 range. And we said, well, that's not very good. We started digging in, and what we discovered is that there's two Net Promoter Scores. There's the adopter Net Promoter Score and the non-adopter. So the adopter Net Promoter Score was very high. It was like almost 60. The non-adopter was slightly negative because they said, wow, I don't understand what this is. And so two things are required in that case. One, I think you called it the escape route. We call it the default plan. So a user can, at any time they want, say, you know what, I'm not ready to enter this journey just yet. Please just give me what I'm used to, but I like what I'm seeing. The key to getting that user to go forward is a simple experience that they understand and incentives. You will get that user. It's a matter of how you focus the incentives. That's where segmentation, BI, and a platform that can deliver specific incentives and service and other things for that user makes a big difference. So you can eventually get, so what we're doing now is we used to say, well, PAYGO, that's the old world. We're offering this new world of choice and customization. We now have full-blown PAYGO capabilities, so we can offer whatever the heck you have in a prepay market today to keep those base users happy while they decide to migrate up. Because there's about 50-50 in the case of this one operator. Now, the operator's thrilled because the guys who migrate up stick and the ARPU goes up. So they want them, at one point they said, let's just forget about the other guys. You said, whoa, let's find a way to make them happy too. So that's one real world example.
That's great. We have a question over here.
Yes. Good morning, Karim Taga from Arthur Digital. I have a question to Jean-Marc with regards to BT. It's clear that digital transformation is a big, let's say, thing going on globally with all the companies, small and bigger. I have two questions for you. One is to what extent you get involved in the digital transformation? And that could be everything. We can think of enabling technologies, as you were mentioning, about mobile, etc. But it also means think of new business model. It also means reshaping the e-care, e-sales, etc. But it also means creating a digital twin, creating a digital environment like Second Life, as we see some companies going there, taking all the decisions based on a digital purely environment and then applying this in the real world. So digital can mean a lot. So to what extent you go, number one, and second, how is your go-to-market differentiating from small, medium-sized companies and multinational companies?
Thanks for the question. That's a very, very good question. So, as a telecommunications company, we're active with our customers, helping them with a number of their problems, right? The centerpiece of our interventions tend to be network-centric, as you can imagine. So we like to provide networking, global networking or UK domestic networking solutions for our customers. But that normally doesn't stop there, because the sort of interventions we like to help our customers with have to do with a bit more than just the networking. And it goes quite rapidly into their IT challenges, their IT estates, hosting, of course, so compute, offering compute capabilities, security, collaboration. And right on top of that, in, I would say, nearly a majority of cases today, you find that there's a degree of digital transformation that is at stake when you're touching a large customer contract or a large customer outsourcing opportunity. So for that, what we have is we've built effectively a digital transformation practice. We have a part of BT that caters to effectively a consulting SI function to help our customers through their slightly more sophisticated problem that come on top of networking. So if that answers your question, that's how much we can go as far as needed through that digital transformation practice. And your second question once again? The small and large companies, how do we address their different, channels to market for the SME segment is always the challenge, right? I mean, the large enterprises, you have your direct sales force, we have our SI arm, as I just described. The small and medium enterprise size of the market is very interesting because they are actually the more interesting part of the digital transformation. The large companies that can spend a lot of money on it normally find good solutions for it, because that's how the existing supplier base is designed. The small and medium guys that typically use SaaS and cloud more are aspiring to transform digitally, but typically do not find good solutions that are inexpensive, ready-made, sufficiently tailored for them, but sufficiently low cost. So that's what we're focusing on, and part of our activity here in the Valley is to try and find the SaaS suppliers or the specific digital transformation tool set guys that would help the SME market get their act together with our help. And the way you address them is typically through third parties or online or through social marketing. So I mean it's a complex and very rich question behind this, but this is very absolutely an exciting part of what's going on in digital transformation at the moment.
Makes sense. Great. Well, actually, we're out of time. So thank you. Help me thank these gentlemen for taking the time today to share. And our next kind of conversation we're going to have up here in just a few minutes is actually going to be about what's happening in the Beltway in DC. So stay tuned for that. I think that's at 10:35 today. Great. Thank you so much.